Hello and welcome to your YIN class. Today, we're going to be focusing specifically on the shoulders and the hips. So, a couple props, we don't need much today, but a blanket, a couple of yoga blocks, and then eventually a strap. And if you don't have a strap, we can work without it, but it's going to really help us to release the iliopsoas through the front of the hips. We're going to begin with the shoulders though. So, for this one, go ahead and take your blanket, unfold it so you have like a rectangle amount of fabric, maybe like 2 feet by 3 feet. And then we're going to fold this accordion style. So once you have a little bit of fabric, go ahead and lay one side down. You're going to fold the middle part on top of that, and then the third top right on top of that. So it's just laying down like an accordion, flap on top of flap. And just looking for maybe about an inch or two of thickness through the blanket. And if that fold doesn't make sense or feel good for you, feel free to fold your blanket however it does. Go ahead and take your yoga block or a second blanket and set it towards the head end of your mat. And we're going to use that to support the head. We're going to be placing the shoulder blades or the scapula right on top of the blanket with the upper part of the shoulder, the trap region, and the neck between the two props. So you may have to adjust as you start to bring yourself down. But what we want to find here is that the shoulder blades are on the blanket, the arms are in between the two props, and then the block finds and supports the head. So the block can be on the mid or low setting depending on what feels better for your neck. But again, we want to find here are the arms can come in between the two props. Your leg can be however's comfortable. If you want to keep them bent, that can release some pressure in the low back. But if it feels better to straighten them, or maybe even sit the legs as if you were sitting crisscross upright, or even a supine Baddha Konasana, if you want to bring the bottom of the feet together. Now, once you have everything in place, I invite you to, if the arms are straight, bring them into a cactus-like position where we're bending at the elbows. From here, we're going to just kind of explore where it feels good. Maybe the elbows being in line with the shoulders feels good, or maybe taking them a little bit more up towards the head can find a bigger release through the chest and the shoulder region. But again, listen to your body and adjust accordingly. And then find a place where you can let go of your muscular engagement. So you're not doing anything to hold yourself in this shape. The props are holding you here. And once you feel supported, I invite you, if you feel safe to do so, to close the eyes or just downcast them and start to bring some awareness to your breath. Maybe even taking a few deep breaths and noticing as you inhale the energizing effect, the lift through the body. And as you exhale, this softening or surrendering into the shape. And I'm going to go quiet. So what I invite you to do is just to keep mentally focusing on this breath, and we'll be here in this shape for a couple of minutes. And take one more round of your deep breath here. And then if you did anything different with the legs besides keeping them bent with the feet on the floor, I invite you to bring them back to that position. And then gently bring your arms down by your side and pause for a moment here, coming out of that pretty intense chest and shoulder release. And we're going to build on that specifically through the chest. So go ahead and roll onto either side of your body. And we're going to come onto the belly, but go ahead and set your block off to the side and scooch your blanket up to where your head will be. So rather than it being under the shoulders, go ahead and take it up towards the head end of your mat a little bit. Once you have made your prop adjustments, go ahead and come back onto your belly. Now we're going to come into a variation of scorpion, but specifically through the chest. So the blanket will be here for the head. If this accordion fold we began with is too flat, you may also fold it halfway. So your head can be a little bit more in line with the cervical neck or with the cervical spine, which might just feel better for you. But we're going to take the right arm out into a cactus shape. And just begin by, once the right arm is in that cactus shape, bringing your forehead to your blanket. Now we're going to twist the body away from the right arm. So however this feels comfortable, you may not twist all the way onto the right hip. You may just come part way. I like to bend my knees. Your right shoulder will probably definitely not touch the floor, and that's okay. But slowly start to wiggle your way into your twist. So now we're laying on the right side body any way that feels good for you, and then lower the side of your head onto your blanket. Your left arm can be however's comfortable, but what we're looking for here is a gentle stretch through the right chest. So if the bent legs takes out any sensation of stretch, feel free to straighten the legs any amount. And again, the more you roll onto the right side, the deeper the stretch will be. So if it's too intense, let your body be more somewhere in between, the belly on the floor to the twist, somewhere in that range. And again, once you find a spot you can linger in, we'll be here for a couple of minutes. So again, I'm going to go quiet, but what I invite you to do is to really focus on the breath. And this time specifically breathing through the left side rib cage, so the side of your body that's not touching anything. And just having this sense of your rib cage like a vent or a cleansing system as the air just flows through the bones and the intercostals. As you inhale, feel the diaphragm gently push towards the left side ribs. And as you exhale, feel the diaphragm gently pull away as the air is being drawn. Take another deep breath here. Then slowly start to unravel the body, coming back onto your belly. And you can bring the forehead back down or come onto the other cheek, but I'm going to invite you to bring the arms down by your side and release through that right chest and shoulder, and just pause for a moment and notice how that feels in your body. And we're going to now come into that same thing on the other side. So go ahead and come back onto your forearms so you can find that cactus shaping through the left arm. Again, bringing your forehead towards your blanket first, still on your belly, so you can adjust the arm as needed if something doesn't feel quite right. Then from there, we're slowly going to use the right hand and the legs to twist our body towards the right, maybe bending the knees, or maybe keeping the legs straight, and then lowering the left side of the face onto our blanket. And again, I'll go quiet as we focus on the breath, this time through the right side rib cage, sensing the diaphragm like a balloon as we inhale, pushing the air towards and through the ribs. And then as it gently deflates, as you exhale, feel that little drawing away from the ribs. And take one more deep breath here. And again, slowly just try to unravel your body so you can come back onto your belly, bringing your forehead back to your blanket and releasing your left arm down by your side to come out of that shoulder and chest stretch. And notice how the shoulder feels now. And then slowly walk your hands under your shoulders, and we're going to sit the hips back towards the heels. Now, if having the hips back towards the heels doesn't feel really natural or comfortable in your body and there's no contact, it might be helpful to have a second blanket that you'll place in between the space of your hips and your heels. Go ahead and grab your blanket, and from its accordion fold, we're just going to fold it in half one way. So we're lifting it up a little bit. So now you have maybe 3 or 4 inches of height instead of just the 1 or 2. But from this child pose variation, bring the blanket in a little bit closer. We're going to set the elbows onto the blanket and let the forehead come onto that little ridge of fabric towards the end, keeping the heels heavy. Bringing the hands through Andale Mudra, or that prayer posture, hands together. Let the fingertips point up towards the sky. From there, you may have to adjust if your prop is too close and you don't really feel an opening through the chest and through the arms and the shoulders. You may have to press the blanket away from your body a little bit. But then let your head and your chest be heavy, cascading down towards the floor. Keeping the hands together, fingers pointing up towards the sky, and finding this gentle release through the entire upper body. And take another deep breath here. And slowly start to release your arms forward first. And then rounding your spine to come up. And we're going to transition now. So we're doing a little bit of shoulders, and we're going to add in the hips. So we're going to flip it back over onto our backs. And we're going to bring the legs into Supta Baddha Konasana, or butterfly. So if your hips are really tight, it might be helpful to have your blocks. So you can place them to the outside of the hips. We're going to leave this blanket that we had folded in half for a pillow. I know for myself, my hips are a little bit more open and my shoulders are a little bit more tight. So if you feel like that's your body as well, I'm going to invite you to set your blocks kind of at the corners of the top edge of your blanket. So when we bring the arms into that cactus shape, rather than them having to reach towards the floor and maybe not make contact, and then we have to hold them in space, the blocks are there to hold the arms. So if you have 2 sets of blocks, you can have 1 set for your legs and 1 set for your arms. But if you're limited, decide what part of your body might need a little extra support. And then we're going to bring the head onto the blanket rather than the shoulder blades. So you may have to adjust a little bit. And if you're using the blocks for the arms are going to be slightly overhead, kind of like making a little diamond shape. And then the bottom of the feet together, knees out wide into your Supta Baddha Konasana. So this is where we're going to land. Go ahead and take a moment to adjust your props. If something doesn't feel really restorative or restful in your body, make any adjustments to find that. And this will be kind of a nice one to release hips and shoulders together. We've so far been focusing more on the upper body, but now we're slowly going to start to transition our focus more to the hips and the low back. But let your arms still be a part of this. So we're still releasing through the chest and the shoulders. But just make sure there's no tension in the arms. They're resting on your prop or on the floor. And finding that gentle opening through the chest and the release through the upper body. And take one or two more deep breaths here. And then I'm going to invite you to release your arms first down by your side. And then taking your hands to the outside of your thighs, use your arms to bring your legs back together, especially if the hips are really tight and they've been invited to open to a more intense stretch. And then whenever you're ready, roll onto your left side and come up onto your left elbow. I'm going to grab one of our yoga blocks. Now, if you're on a hard surface, you might want to unfold your blanket a couple times and place the blanket under the elbow just for some padding for the elbow. But we're going to let the bottom left leg be straight. Now grab your yoga block and place it somewhat in front of the bottom left thigh or hip. And then you're going to use that to hold the right knee in front of you. And the right foot can just fall towards the floor, however feels comfortable. So what we're going to want to find here is this release through the side body and where it connects with the hip. So rather than lifting up like you would in an exercise class to stay nice and strong, let the side body cascade towards the floor. Let your shoulder lift and then let your head rest on your bottom shoulder. So you feel this nice big stretch throughout the entire side body and how it connects the upper and the lower body together. And again, once you find yourself comfortable enough to stay, come into that stillness and come back to focusing on your breath. And this time it'll be through the left side of your rib cage. So the side of the rib cage closest to the floor, and where the ribs kind of feel like an open accordion, like the bones are almost spread out or being stretched out. And keep breathing into that space, using your diaphragmatic breath like a balloon. As you inhale, let the diaphragm push towards the bottom ribs. Feel the expansion and the stretch. As you exhale, it's like a balloon deflating and softening. And take one more deep breath here. Now keep your head heavy and resting on your shoulder, but use your bottom left arm to start to lift your ribs. As your ribs lift, the head will pull away from the shoulder as it naturally draws down. Release your right leg and then use your right hand to press yourself up. Before we transition sides, pause for a moment and notice the effects through the entire left side of your body, your neck, your shoulder, your ribs, your hips. And pausing for a moment to let all of that come back through its natural state. And when you're ready, we're just going to switch over to the other side. So coming onto your right elbow and side body. Let your right leg be long, and we're going to bring this yoga block in front of the right thigh on its mid setting and let that support the left leg. Again, rather than lifting up through the side body, let your side body just cascade towards the floor. You'll feel this right shoulder kind of stick up towards the ear, and that's going to act as a shelf to hold the head. And again, what we're going to want to find here is breathing through the side of the rib that's closest towards the floor. So using this right side body like an open accordion as the air can flow freely through the ribs. The gentle yin posture, releasing the intercostals, the obliques, all of these side body muscles, small and large. And take one more deep breath here. And again, we'll use this bottom arm to just press the side body back into alignment. And as you do so, the shoulder will draw away from the head, start to lift the head. Release your block, and then slowly come up to sit using your arms to support you. And once you've come back up, pausing for a moment and noticing the entire right side of your body. And we're going to come into one of my favorite releases for the front of the hip. So for this one, you'll need your strap and some space in front of you. So if your props are in the way, you may want to set them off to the side. Go ahead, and we're going to turn our strap into a loop. So depending on what kind of strap you have, if you've got the buckle, however you need to make it into a giant circle. And I recommend tugging it a couple times just to make sure it's actually going to stay together. Once you have your loop in a giant circle, just twist one end so you're making really a figure 8 or an infinity symbol. Now just sit comfortable in your crisscross position. You don't have to adjust anything else. You're going to slide the end closest to the right knee on the right knee and the end closest to the left on the left. Just make sure you still have access to the buckle, as we'll need to tighten it eventually. You're going to slide the left foot underneath the strap with the right knee, and you're going to slide the right foot underneath the side with the left. So you've taken this crisscross, and the feet and the knees are both inside of the strap. Once you're all inside of the strap, grab hold of the tail and tighten it until you feel like your legs and feet are like sandwiched together and can't get away from each other. Now, once you have all of that, the hardest part is just flipping over onto the belly. So however you want to get there, I like to just kind of crawl my way out there. And then once you're on the inside of the knees, lower yourself to the floor like a push-up. You can stack the arms to support the head or take them into a cactus shape and come onto one cheek. And if you're not feeling a whole lot of stretch to the front of hips, I invite you to heavy your pelvis and imagine pushing your knees towards the foot end of your mat. So you feel that nice lengthening through the front of the hips and into the iliopsoas. And once here, this will be our final yin posture. I'm going to invite you to breathe now into your back body. So the whole back of your body. As you inhale, you'll feel the diaphragm push towards the spine and towards the back ribs, like that balloon. You exhale that gentle release as you're creating more space within the body as the diaphragm deflates. And just keep taking these nice deep breaths into the back body. And I invite you to take 2 more breaths here. And at the bottom of your next exhale, walk your hands back underneath your shoulders. Use your arms to lift your body up, and then crawl your way back to have a seat. From here, loosen your strap so you can come out. Maybe even taking your strap apart completely. And then be really gentle, especially with the knees because they were bound, as you slowly straighten your legs out. And then maybe just gently kind of rock them and let them release. And then once you feel settled and your knees and your hips have rebounded, I invite you just to come to lay flat on your back. And if that's not comfortable, feel free to grab any of your props. Maybe place one under your head or something underneath your knees for some low back release. And just come into a Shavasana. Let your arms be rested down by your side. Rather than treating this like a rest, I invite you to explore the sensations within your body that you've discovered throughout class today. Notice how your shoulders feel, your hips, your chest, even your knees, your neck. Also, the wonderful effects on your nervous system. Hopefully, feeling more centered, more restored, and calm. And this is where I'm going to leave you today. So if you have a few extra moments, I invite you to stay exactly as you are. And if it's time to move on with your day, thank you for joining me for your practice. And until next time, be well. You have a few minutes still though, so if you would like to stay, I invite you to stay exactly as you are.